We started our discussion with the defeat of schools, and we talked about the failure of schools. हमने स्टार्ट जब किया था डिस्कशन, वी स्टार्टेड कि स्कूल्स का मकसद क्या है, और उसमें हमने हर एक डेफिनेशन ली, जो भी मतलब फ्रॉम वन एक्सट्रीम टू अनदर एक्सट्रीम, कि स्कूल्स ने एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी स्किल लेवल्स बढ़ाने हैं लोगों के, या स्कूल्स को कैरेक्टर बनाना, हमने वो सारी 3 डेफिनेशंस में हमने उसको कवर किया, हर एक पहलू को चेक किया. वी अंडरस्टूड दैट वी हैड फेल्ड ऑन दैट फ्रंट. अगेन टू कॉल सुहेल as a witness, he after that session said that I was shocked that this is the state of our education, and we were quoting data from different sources to make our point. But we did not limit our discussion to 1 or 2 things. We started going into detail. We started talking about different subjects of study. How are they doing? Language studies, social sciences, so that it doesn't look that कि ये किसी एक साइड की बात हो रही है. We talked about general education, क्या होता है. हमने एजुकेशन का व्यू, what is in the west, what is in the east and what is in the middle, और उसके रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स के तौर पे हमने the bigger civilizations of 3 parts: the Christian liberal civilization in west, Indian civilization, Hindu civilization in east, and Islamic civilization in the center Middle East. तो हमने तीनों का व्यू ऑफ नॉलेज एंड एजुकेशन देखा, और हमने उसमें मॉडर्न एजुकेशन का भी जो व्यू है उसको भी देखा, और हमने फिर उसमें अंडरस्टैंड करने की कोशिश की कि एजुकेशन को एक्चुअली करना क्या चाहिए, सो दैट वी आर एबल टू डायग्नोज द प्रॉब्लम. फिर हमने डिस्कस करने की कोशिश की स्पेशलाइजेशन और द पेरिल्स ऑफ स्पेशलाइजेशन, और उसके एसोसिएटेड मसाइल को कवर करके हमने बाय एंड लार्ज हमारे टॉपिक को कवर किया. एंड वी एंडेड विद दिस लाइन कि इफ दिस इज द डायग्नोसिस, व्हाट इज द प्रिस्क्रिप्शन. एंड इफ यू आस्क मी, दिस बिकम्स द मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट पार्ट, द मीट ऑफ इट, व्हाट वी वांटेड टू रीच एट. हमने जब अगर अब प्रॉब्लम को आप अंडरस्टैंड कर चुके हैं जो पूरे सिस्टम का है, सो आई थिंक अभी तक आपकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग होगी कि द काइंड ऑफ emphasis we have tried to put on, the kind of solution we would be reaching. We would have to say that there cannot be a standard one gloves fit all solution, because when we talked about general solution, one of the things we said is that it is dependent upon the people itself. For example, the students itself, what they want to study. It has a lot to do with the cultural ethos. So what is true for US may not be true for Bangladesh, may not be true for say Myanmar or whatever. ये सारा इसमें diversity you would have to anticipate, even if we are trying to find out an answer to the question. But then we can still find some broader contours. So every human is a nation in itself, but then we still form races, nations, etc. So we can find certain things that can be done. Certain colleges, certain universities, they have tried to do it. Lekin if you think that there is going to be one formula which is going to fit each and every circumstances, each and every place, if a formula which fits all situations, you can be certain about it that it actually fits none of them. And it is amazing, this fact about human civilization. If it fits everyone, it fits no one. ये सब के लिए मिसफिट होगा. जो कपड़ा सब पहन सकते हैं, सब पे फिट होता है, वो एक्चुअली किसी की फिटिंग के हिसाब से नहीं होगा. But what is the good news is that most of education generalists, they in principle agree what ought to be done. And the essence of all that discussion is that most of our school procedures, जो gymnastics हमने इन दिनों बात की, which utterly fail to get their result, they have to be simplified and they need to be rationalized. हमारा ऑर्डिनरी करिकुलम जो स्कूल का होता है, कॉलेज का होता है, इट्स मेड अप ऑफ लार्ज नंबर ऑफ नैरो कोर्सेज. और यहीं से हमारा प्रॉब्लम स्टार्ट होता है. कल के डिस्कशन से कम इतना हम साबित कर ही चुके हैं. We have to turn to broader curriculum. Essentially, the answer to our problem is this. What shall be the prescription? Broader syllabus. If we have to say in one word. It's as simple as that. Yet, when I say this word, we have to get to the broader principles. I have said such a big thing that we can talk about it for days altogether. It strikes down at the very roots of our educational problem. जो नैरो कोर्सेज का सिस्टम है, उसने हमारे स्कूल्स को, हमारे बच्चों को, हमारे टीचर्स को, हमारे कल्चरल एथॉस को, हमारी सोसाइटी को अपनी गिरफ्त में ले लिया है. And more so in two ways. It poses a whole row of insoluble educational riddles which we cannot solve, and it is a perfect opportunity for a specialist to prove that he is the worst fitted for the job. हमारे जो बच्चे हैं स्कूल में, कॉलेज में, what are they faced with? Commercial arithmetic, elementary statistics, elementary algebra, advanced algebra. We are continuing with the example of the same mathematics which we took last time, but you can extend it to other fields as well. Plane geometry, solid geometry, analytics, trigonometry. You want to talk about, say, for example, history, ancient history, medieval history, maybe history of World War II, modern history, and so on, infinite. What chance do our students have to make a wise choice? Even if you give them the best advice, can you really make a choice between these infinite number of subjects which you can study? Can you? You must be knowing the paradox of choices. It is as bad as one of those huge bills of fare which drive one frantic trying to choose a reasonable meal. क्या मैं choose करूँ इस सब में से? शायद geometry, because an educated man must know geometry, right? But what about Renaissance? Renaissance history के बारे में अगर मुझे नहीं पता, am I educated enough? What about Industrial Revolution? Oh, I need to know 1857 का revolt, which is also important. But then, what do I do with artificial intelligence? Surely educated people know that. Oh, I need to know religion. So you're caught in this cogmire. Okay, there are so many things on the table and you have to choose one. When the choices get higher and higher, and there you see. There was a survey conducted and you can read that book. It is in it, The Paradox of Choice. उसमें बड़े डिटेल में है ये कि US में when the choices for insurance were increased, the number of insurance fell. When it was only one choice, insurance takers were high. It's very interesting phenomena. So if you're not interested in reading books, there is also a lecture based on the book. Same author ने TEDx talk है वो. You can listen to that. Paradox of Choice. So you're faced with it. कि क्या करें इनमें से choose, क्या पढ़ें? It would be nice to take something on the appreciation of pictures, but of course music would be good then. क्या करें? अब music करें या painting करें? Language कौन सी सीखे? संस्कृत सीखे? You will get to marvel the excellence of Yajurved if you learn Sanskrit. But then you would not be able to understand Shirazi or Rumi. Go for Persian. But what about the beauty of Quran? You would miss that. Hebrew? Which language? I need to communicate. English, please. But my mother tongue is Kashmiri. What do I do now? at least we have to start with getting some kind of reasonable order इस सब में. इसका opposite 2 मिनट के लिए suppose करें कि we have a broader course. Say we have a broader course in science, not in physics, chemistry, biology, psychology, physiology. Science. Science as such. Taking as much time as 2 or 3 or whatever number of years. Same for literature. Another for social sciences. Another for arts. There must be some difference if we take this approach. It has immediately the look of a classification of cultural material in terms of the interest and needs of the ultimate consumer, which is the student. He gets to choose from wherever he wants. No elaborate argument is necessary to show that a person who is to live a free and effective life in a world such as ours needs to have access to science, literature, social studies, arts तो पता ही होना चाहिए, and to be aware of their relationship with his life. इतना तो हमारे बच्चों को पता होना ही चाहिए. This surely means educated. जब हम बोलते हैं किसी को, हम उससे यही expect करते हैं ना. He has certain taste in literature. He understands basic science, basic social science. यही तो हम समझ रहे हैं. We don't think of it as he knows chemical bonds precisely. When we say educated, we don't mean he knows precisely which string to play. When we say educated, this is essentially what we are thinking, that he has a basic understanding that makes life possible of arts, of humanities, of social sciences. This is what we mean. जो हमारे बच्चों को पढ़ाते हैं, जो उनको एलिमेंट्री ज्योमेट्री पढ़ाते हैं, एलिमेंट्री संस्कृत, हिंदी, कश्मीरी, इंग्लिश पढ़ाते हैं, आपने से सबके साथ ही हुआ होगा, एंड आई एम श्योर ये सबके साथ हुआ होगा. जब आप पढ़ रहे थे और आप में से जो पढ़ा रहे हैं, तो आपने ये फेस किया होगा, that you really have to pull out of the hat the most fantastic arguments in effort to answer the inevitable question everyone has asked: why am I studying this? What is the use of this study in my future? आप मीम्स देखते होंगे कि आज तक समझ नहीं आया कि a+b होल स्क्वायर कहाँ इस्तेमाल होना था. You must have asked these questions. Or one answer which you must have heard, because we all know, क्योंकि हम भी ये फेस कर रहे हैं ये questions, हम कुछ ना कुछ करके बच्चे को समझा ही देते हैं, and we know we are fooling around. We are making no sense. The ordinary reply we can still give to every such question is it trains the mind. Inverted commas में trains the mind. If it just trains the mind, so would like typewriting. बर्तन धोना trains mind. They can do that trick as well. Why pass our children through this 8-hour period in schools for 12 to 16 years? Why? Training the mind is very simple. सोचना ही तो सिखाना है. He is naturally disposed to do that. But if the teacher is teaching the nature and structure of language as an instrument of expression, as an instrument of thought, or if he is teaching mathematics for building a mathematical thinking, if he is trying that, or if the arts teacher is actually trying to teach the effective standards of aesthetic reception appraisal, or if we are trying to build up the riches of world literature, then he doesn't have a problem in explaining why are we studying this. There is something good about the broad. There is something good about this encyclopedic course जो एक बच्चे को कन्विंस करता है कि उसको ये क्यों पढ़ना है. It feels something worth having. We gave that example. If someone visits you from Mars and tells you, give me the best your civilization has produced, what would you give him? If you give him something else, why give our children these? Huh? That's a question we need to ask ourselves. Then again, the narrow course में फिट कौन होता है? आपको बच्चे को क्लास में पढ़ाना है हाइड्रोजन बॉन्डिंग, डबल हेलिक्स मॉडल ऑफ डीएनए, ये कौन पढ़ा सकता है? जनरलिस्ट नहीं पढ़ा सकता. Who is getting happy? The specialist, which we in previous session proved is a disaster in classroom, a bull in a china shop. अगर हम बच्चों को ज्योमेट्री, संस्कृत, अरबिक, हिंदी ये पढ़ाना चाहते हैं, there is not much alternative in what must be done. Unless you want to introduce all sorts of material which has no use for them in their real lives, we know how it needs to be done. लेकिन हम क्या करते हैं? हम वही करते हैं जो हमने पिछले एग्जाम्पल में देखा था, जहाँ पे कश्मीर यूनिवर्सिटी का प्रोफेसर या दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी का प्रोफेसर, when he had to write a book on algebra, they will write the elements of the subject, they will teach the elements of the subject. और ये सारे सब्जेक्ट्स ये क्यों पढ़ाते हैं? वो क्यों उन्होंने सिलेक्ट किया था algebra? Because what he himself was, for becoming that, this is needed. So everything that a child is taught for the further studies. But we know that most of our children are not going to end up there. The specialist that teaches, we know most of our kids are not going to end up there. They're going to leave it. And then they would upload on Twitter or Insta. There was no use of a plus b whole square in my life. Man, you're a singer, obviously. There was no use. Great majority of students, they never reach to that level जहाँ पे उनको उतनी detailed study की ज़रूरत पड़ती, जहाँ पे they need to know all that, क्योंकि वो specialization वहाँ तक कर चुके होते हैं. They will become engineers, they will become doctors if they want to study to that level. In contrast to this specialized education, broad course की essence है इसका immediate result. जो टॉपिक्स इसमें स्टडी करते हैं वो इमीडिएट रेलेवेंस के होते हैं. आप बच्चों को कॉन्ग्रुएंस ऑफ ट्रायंगल पढ़ाएं, विदाउट डाउट पढ़ाएं, बट इट इज़ गोइंग टू बी ऑफ फ्यूचर यूज ओनली टू ए माइनॉरिटी. इट्स नॉट गोइंग टू बी ऑफ फ्यूचर यूज मेजॉरिटी. कुड वी देन मेक ए कोर्स which would consist entirely of topics of current and immediate concern and importance? Can we do that? Can we make a course which would still deserve to be called elementary plane geometry, for example, even if it is of current and immediate concern? If we can, that would be a big achievement. But if we change the problem question, okay, maybe it's very difficult to teach elementary plane geometry, showing its relevance to current and immediate concern. Difficult, okay, got it. But it's not very difficult if you teach mathematics as such. You can definitely find examples which are relevant. You might not find the relevance of hydrogen bonding immediately, but of science you can. Here is in front of you a greater wealth of material from which you can choose. If you just want to limit to congruency of triangles, very difficult to find relevant examples. But if you do not put an arbitrary boundary, you have a bigger set to choose from. It may be very hard to arrange a course which in its very structure and content will show the average pupil that geometry as a specialized, delimited subject matters much to him, but it is very easy to show him how fascinating mathematics is. It might be very difficult to show him here imaginary number I, how does it lead to all this electronic revolution? Very difficult. But to show him the marvels of mathematics, very easy. Instead of algebra, geometry, trigonometry, mathematics. Instead of Sanskrit, Kashmiri, Arabic, Pashto, Urdu, linguistics. Instead of physics, chemistry, biology, physiology, psychology, science. Instead of music, painting, sculpture, dance, art. Instead of economics, sociology, anthropology, social science. Instead of English literature, classical literature, French literature, Arabic literature, Persian literature, Hindi literature, humanities. And this is a rationalized and simplified scheme of education. नैरो सब डिवीजन स्पेशलिस्ट के लिए है और जो स्पेशलिस्ट बनना चाहता है उसके लिए है। ब्रॉड एरियाज ऑफ स्टडी आम लोगों के लिए है और ज़्यादातर लोग जो स्कूल से निकलेंगे वो आम लोग होते हैं। सब लोग उनमें से नोबेल लॉरेट नहीं बनेंगे, सब लोग उनमें से कोटली की तरह अर्थशास्त्र नहीं लिखेंगे, सब लोग उनमें से बंसीना नहीं बनेंगे, लेकिन सब लोग उनमें से माएँ बनेंगी, फादर्स बनेंगे, किसी के भाई बनेंगे, गवर्नमेंट सर्वेंट्स बनेंगे, फैमिली मेम्बर्स बनेंगे, किसी के दोस्त बनेंगे, राह पे चलते हुए लोग बनेंगे, सब लोग। ये हमारा कंसर्न है, यही एक जनरलिस्ट एजुकेशन वाले का कंसर्न है। यहाँ पे फिर से ये समझना है कि एक ही लेआउट नहीं है इसका, कि यही एक मैथमेटिक्स, साइंस, आर्ट, ये does not have to be like that. It would vary from place to place, from time to time, from district to district maybe. Yet, if that is too complicated, we can still instill in our kids the cultural materials which are relevant to them. It makes easier for the pupil, for the student to perceive the relationship of those materials to his own being, to his own living, than all of these small pigeonholes we have built.